I stood on the balcony of my hotel suite, watching the sun glance off the water below. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was my son, Brandon. His voice was tight, almost frantic. "Mom, the room keys are not working. Can you come down and help us?" I looked at the time. Exactly 10:00, the moment I had planned for. From where I stood, I could see my family down by the pool, carefree, laughing, certain that I was still the same woman who would always fix everything. But not this time. This was the minute they realized I wasn't their wallet, and I wasn't their burden. Let me take you back 3 weeks earlier to the phone call that set it all in motion. My name is Mave Thompson. I am 65 years old, a widow for the past 4 years, and I live in a quiet coastal town called Harbor Ridge, Maine. Life since my husband passed has been steady, but lonely. I fill my days with baking pies for the Sunday market, sewing for neighbors, and keeping a small home that still echoes with memories of family dinners and children's laughter. My eldest son, Brandon, is 38. He is married to Chelsea, who has a sharp laugh and a sharper tongue. My younger son, Lucas, is 35, married to Brooke, who always seems to measure people with her eyes before she speaks. Between them, they have given me 5 grandchildren each with their own brightness. But it is Piper Lucas's 17-year-old daughter who often sits with me in the kitchen, listens to my stories, and notices when I grow quiet. In early December, Brandon called with a plan that made my heart swell. "A family trip," he said. "All of us together for a week in January at a beautiful resort called Seabb Shore. Pools, restaurants, games for the children." He wanted it to feel like the good old days. For a moment I felt young again, included, as if the circle of family had finally opened to make space for me. I had no idea that invitation carried a hidden cost. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Brandon called. The winter sun streamed through my kitchen window, catching the steam that curled up from my coffee cup. I picked up the phone and heard his eager voice. "Mom, I have the best idea," he said. "Imagine all of us spending a week together at Seabb Shore. The kids can swim, Chelsea and Brooke can relax, Lucas and I can unwind. You'll love it. We need this as a family." I felt my chest tighten in a way I had not felt in years. For so long I had been invited only to Sunday dinners, sitting quietly while conversations swirled around careers and vacations I was never part of. Now, suddenly, they wanted me in their plans. I blinked back tears. "That sounds wonderful, son. When would it be first week of January 7 days?" "But there's one small detail. The hotel requires one person to make the reservation. Could you handle that part? We'll transfer the money later." The request landed softly, but its weight was heavy. Of course, Mom takes care of the details. Mom signs her name, carries the risk, makes sure everything runs smoothly. Still, the thought of a holiday with everyone together swept away my hesitation. "Of course, Brandon, you can count on me." That evening, I called the resort. The receptionist's voice was cheerful. 5 family suites, all-inclusive, from January 2nd to 9th. The total comes to $4 and $200 half as a deposit due immediately. 100. My heart stopped. I had no idea how I would find that kind of money. That night I could not sleep. I sat in my rocking chair with a notebook writing and rewriting numbers. My pension was $800 a month. I had $50 in cash tucked in an envelope. There was a small emergency fund hidden inside a jar of flour nowhere near enough. The next morning I opened the drawer where my husband's wedding band had rested beside mine. I turned my own ring over in my fingers, the small diamond catching the weak winter light. 42 years of marriage, a lifetime in one circle of gold. And yet I knew what I had to do. I walked into Halpern's Jewelry downtown. The owner, Mr. Halpern, had known me since I was a newlywed. "Mave, how are you?" he asked kindly. I placed the ring on the counter. "What can you give me for this?" He examined it carefully. 800, he said at last. My throat tightened, but I nodded. It would have to be enough. With that money, my savings, and every pie I baked and sold at the Sunday market, I scraped together the $2,100. I called the resort that afternoon and paid the deposit. My name was now on 5 suites, 7 nights, 12 people. Through December, I cut corners in silence. I lowered the thermostat, walked instead of taking the bus, and worked late sewing hems. Every sacrifice whispered the same promise to myself. This is for family. This is for love. The morning of the trip, I dressed in my light blue dress, the one Piper once told me made me look younger. I pinned on my mother's pearl necklace and carried my modest suitcase to the car. Brandon honked from the street, his wife Chelsea in the passenger seat, scrolling her phone. 2 of the children in the back. "Good morning, family," I said brightly as I slid into the seat. Only the children looked up and smiled. Chelsea murmured a distracted hello without lifting her eyes. Brandon's voice was tired as he asked if I was ready. I forced a cheerful yes. 3 hours later, we pulled into Seabb Shore Resort. The white facade gleamed under the winter sun. Tall palms swayed, fountains sparkled, and the ocean air carried the scent of salt and flowers. For a moment my heart soared. It was more beautiful than I imagined. Inside, the lobby shone with polished marble and glass chandeliers. I stepped to the reception desk, gave my name, and the clerk confirmed the reservation. 5 family suites, 7 nights, 12 guests. She handed me a stack of elegant key cards shaped like seashells. I turned to share the joy, but the space behind me was empty. Brandon, Chelsea, Lucas, Brooke. Even the younger grandchildren had already slipped away toward the elevators. Only Piper lingered, hugging me quickly. "Grandma, the pool is enormous," she whispered with excitement. At least someone shared my wonder. I looked down at the key cards in my hand, heavy as stones. A trip meant to bring us together was already pulling me aside. Piper walked close beside me as we searched the hallway for the others. We knocked on doors, peered around corners, but it was as if the rest of the family had vanished. Finally, she tugged at my sleeve. "Grandma, there's something you should know." Her voice shook. She pulled out her phone and showed me a group chat. At the top of the screen, the name Red Drama Light Weekend, created by Brandon Thompson. On the same day he had called me with his sweet invitation. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through the messages. "Did you see how excited she was at check-in? At least she's useful for something." Another line read, "Once she transfers the rooms, we can handle the rest. Don't worry, the bank will let us dispute the charges after we check out. Free vacation, no drama." The words blurred. 8 months of pies and sewing my wedding ring, my quiet sacrifices. Also, my children and their wives could laugh in a hidden chat, planning not only to exclude me but to leave me with thousands of dollars in debt. I gripped the key cards tighter, my hands trembling. For a moment, I wanted to collapse right there on the polished floor. But then Piper touched my arm. "Grandma, are you okay?" "No," I whispered. "But I won't stay broken." The old Mave would have hidden in her room, swallowing the humiliation. But not anymore. I had given too much. If they thought I would silently carry their betrayal, they had no idea who they were dealing with. My family saw me as a burden. From this moment on, I would show them I was something else entirely. I closed the door of my suite and sat on the edge of the bed, the ocean stretching out beyond the balcony. My heart beat fast, not from fear, but from something new. Resolve. For 65 years I had put myself second. Tonight I would not. I reached for the phone. The first call went to my bank. I explained calmly that I feared a family member might attempt a fraudulent dispute on the resort charges. The representative listened, took notes, and promised to flag my account. If anyone tried to reverse the payment, a full investigation would begin. One battle line drawn. The second call went to the front desk. Within minutes, the resort manager, Miguel Ortega, introduced himself. He met me in his office, a man with kind eyes who listened without judgment. I told him everything. He assured me the reservation was solely in my name and that no one else could alter it without my consent. He promised to send me written confirmation. Another shield raised. My third call was to a lawyer I had trusted years ago, Ethan Mallister. He listened, his voice heavy with concern. Mave, what they are planning could be considered elder financial abuse. You have every right to protect yourself. He offered to send me documents to sign a sworn statement that I had paid willingly. When I hung up the phone, I felt taller somehow, as if the weight I had carried for years had shifted off my shoulders. I was no longer the woman they thought they could manipulate. I was ready to fight back. The next morning, I met Miguel again in his office. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows onto the polished desk, where he laid out 2 documents. The first confirmed that I and I alone held the reservation. The second was an addendum giving me full authority to modify any part of the stay. So, Mrs. Thompson, he said gently, what would you like us to do? I studied the page, my pen hovering. For months my children had seen me as nothing more than a signature, a card to swipe a guarantee. Now that same signature gave me power. Quietly, I told Miguel what I wanted. At exactly 10, Zorro, deactivate the keycards to 4 of the 5 suites. Keep only mine room, 3003. At 11, send staff to notify the guests that changes had been made by the reservation holder. If they wish to stay, they can pay on their own. Miguel nodded, professional and calm. I will see to it personally. Shall we arrange a taxi for later? Yes, I replied. At 12:30 for 2 people, myself and my granddaughter Piper. He didn't ask why. He only promised it would be done. As I signed the papers, a calm certainty filled me. They had underestimated me. Today, they would learn that even the quietest woman can set boundaries when pushed too far. At 9:58, I sat on the balcony with a fresh cup of coffee. The ocean stretched wide and blue before me, gulls circling above the waves. Down below, I could see my family at the pool. Brandon and Lucas splashed with the younger children. Chelsea and Brooke sipped cocktails under umbrellas, sunglasses hiding their eyes. They looked carefree, certain their plan was safe. My phone rested on the table beside me, waiting. Not to 59. My heart thudded in my chest, not from fear, but from anticipation. This was the moment I had been building toward through every late night of sewing and every pie baked before dawn. Chaten Suro. My phone buzzed almost instantly. A message from Piper. Grandma, it worked. Dad just tried his card and it flashed red. He looks angry. I leaned back in my chair, letting the Seabb breeze lift my hair. A minute later, the phone rang. Brandon's voice was tight. Mom, there's some kind of mix-up. None of our keys are working. Can you come down to help? How strange. I answered evenly. Are you sure nothing has changed? Of course nothing has changed. Just come to reception, please. I smiled into the receiver, though he could not see it. I'm a bit busy right now, son. Important things. I ended the call before he could respond. Below, I saw Chelsea storm toward the lobby, waving her useless key card. At 10:15, another message came from Piper. Grandma, they are all at the desk now. They look panicked. I sipped my coffee slowly, the taste warm and steady. For the first time in years, I was the one writing the script. At 11 sharp, a heavy knock rattled my door. Not polite, not tentative, but urgent. I opened it to find Brandon, Lucas, Chelsea, and Brooke crowding the hallway. Their faces were flushed with anger and confusion. Behind them, a few of the grandchildren clutched beach bags, puzzled by the commotion. Can you tell us what is going on? Chelsea demanded, her voice sharp. Good morning to you, too, I replied, stepping aside. Come in. They pushed into the room, filling the space with their frustration. Brandon tried to keep his tone calm. Mom, the hotel says you canceled our rooms. That has to be some kind of mistake. Just tell them it isn't true. But it is true, I said, holding up the papers. Miguel had given me. I canceled 4 of the 5 suites. The only one left is mine. You can't do that, Lucas stammered. We have kids here. The same kids you planned to keep away from me with a nanny, I answered evenly. Do you want me to show you your own words? I handed Piper screenshots across the table. Their eyes flickered over the cruel lines. Useful for something. Dispute charges. Free vacation. The silence in the room grew heavy. Brooke sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. Brandon's jaw tightened, searching for a defense that would not come. Mom, Lucas finally whispered. We made a mistake, but leaving us without rooms, that's too far. Too far? I asked quietly. After you planned to leave me with the debt, after you laughed at my excitement. Tell me which part of your plan was not too far. The weight of my words seemed to press them down. No one answered. For once, I did not feel the silence. I let it stay. I let them feel it. You have 2 choices, I said at last. You can gather your belongings, call a taxi, and pay for your own vacation, or you can leave altogether. Either way, this part of the trip is over for you. Chelsea's face burned red. You'll regret this, Mave. No, I said, meeting her eyes steadily. The only regret I carry is waiting this long to stand up for myself. The argument ended not with shouting, but with silence. Brandon and Lucas stood rigid, unable to meet my eyes. Chelsea muttered under her breath. Brooke dabbed her face with a tissue. For years I had been the one shrinking in the corner, but now it was them who could not hold the moment. A soft knock came. Miguel appeared at the door, calm as ever. Mrs. Thompson, the taxi you requested will be ready in 30 minutes. Your family's belongings are already packed and waiting in the lobby. He gave a respectful nod and stepped back into the hall. I turned to the grandchildren clustered near the doorway. Their small faces were a mixture of confusion and sadness. I knelt so my eyes were level with theirs. This isn't your fault, I said gently. I love you all very much. Someday you'll understand why Grandma had to do this. 8-year-old Max clung to my waist. We won't build sand castles now. Someday we will. I promised when the time is right. Piper rolled her suitcase to the door. She had made her choice quietly but firmly. She wanted to leave with me. As we walked down the hallway together, I did not feel shame. I felt lighter, almost free. For once, I was not being carried along by their choices. I was making my own. The taxi pulled away from Seabb Shore, just as the noon sun spread gold across the pavement. Through the back window, I saw my family clustered at the entrance, suitcases at their feet, voices raised in argument. The image grew smaller until the palms and fountains swallowed it from view. I turned forward and let the sight go. By 1 hour we arrived at Harbour View in a modest boutique hotel tucked beside the bay. No grand chandeliers, no sprawling pools, but warmth in every detail. The lobby smelled of fresh bread. A young clerk smiled as if guests were treasures, not burdens. Piper squeezed my hand. "Grandma, this feels like the right place." Our room was simple. 2 beds dressed in crisp linens, a small balcony with a view of fishing boats rocking in the harbor. I sat down my bag and breathed deeply. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. That evening we shared clam chowder in the N's dining room, laughing softly over stories Piper wanted to hear again. No drama, no secrets, no betrayal, just the 2 of us free to enjoy a week on our own terms. A quiet victory, but a real one. That night, after Piper drifted to sleep, I sat by the balcony with a notebook. The harbor lights flickered against the water, and for once my thoughts were clear. I had always believed that being a good mother meant giving without limits, forgiving without pause, and never asking for anything in return. But love without boundaries is not love, it is surrender. I thought about the lessons hidden in the wreckage of this trip. First, never put your name or your money on the line without clear agreements. Even family should respect written commitments. A simple email or message confirming who pays what can save a world of grief. Second, respect is not a bonus you earn by sacrificing. It is the baseline of any relationship. If someone cannot offer it, they should not have access to your trust or your wallet. Third, when betrayal happens, you do not have to match cruelty with cruelty. You can answer it with boundaries and calm decisions that protect your dignity. To anyone listening who has ever felt used or invisible, remember that your voice matters. You are not too old to draw a line, not too late to change the story. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are doors that open only for those willing to enter with respect. As I closed my notebook, I realized I had not destroyed a family trip. I had reclaimed myself. As the week unfolded, Piper and I walked the harbor, ate fresh pastries at a corner cafe, and built small sandcastles on the quiet beach. Each simple moment reminded me that joy does not come from grand resorts or expensive buffets. It comes from honesty, from respect, from choosing who you let close to your heart. I did not ruin a family vacation. I rescued my dignity. My children may one day choose honesty and humility, and if they do, my door will be open. But until then, I will not sit in silence waiting to be treated as less than I am. If this story touched you, let me know where you are watching from. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that self-respect is not selfish. It is survival. Like this video, subscribe for more stories from the art of revenge and keep building a community where truth and dignity matter, with love and with strength. This is Mave Thompson's reminder. Boundaries are love and action, and they can change everything.